I should have moved out the moment I saw the first shadow in that window. But you never think you're in a horror story until it's too late. The house next door had been abandoned for years. A sagging roof, chipped paint, weeds swallowing the front porch, just another forgotten home in a dying town. Nobody lived there. At least that's what I told myself, until the night I saw the light flicker on. I was washing dishes when I noticed it, a single dim glow in the upstairs window. It didn't make sense. The house had no electricity, no owner. My stomach tightened, but I told myself it was a trick of the streetlights or some vagrant who had broken in for shelter. Then came the knocking. At first it was faint, like something tapping on glass. But not on my house, it was coming from next door. I turned off the sink, heart pounding, straining to hear. The night was still, except for that knock, 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 steady, slow, rhythmic. I stepped to my window, my fingers trembling as I pulled back the curtain, and then I saw it. A shape. A silhouette standing in the upstairs window, staring directly at me. It wasn't just watching, it knew I was looking. The light behind it flickered and died, plunging the house into darkness. I stood, frozen, my breath caught in my throat, my pulse hammering in my ears. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was exhausted, that the mind plays tricks in the dark. But the next night it got worse. At exactly 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed with a notification. I rubbed my eyes, groggy, and glanced at the screen. Text message. From a number I didn't recognize. Why are you watching me? A chill crawled down my spine. My hands went clammy as I checked the window again. The house was dark, empty, or so I thought. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message. Come outside. I dropped the phone. My breath came in short gasps. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly knocked over the lamp beside my bed. Something wasn't right. I wasn't the one watching that house. It was watching me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in bed, phone clenched in my shaking hands, staring at that last message. Come outside. I didn't. I couldn't. But then, knock, knock, knock. The sound cut through the silence of my house, not at my front door. At my window. I nearly dropped my phone as I snapped my head toward it. The curtains were closed, but I could see the faintest outline of something behind them. Something tall. I couldn't breathe. My body refused to move. Knock. Knock. It was slow, deliberate, like whoever, or whatever, was outside wanted me to know it wasn't leaving. My mind screamed at me to run, to call someone, to do anything, but I just sat there, paralyzed, my breath coming in shallow gasps. I forced myself to move. Just enough to reach the nightstand, grab my phone, and with trembling fingers I started to dial 911. Before I could press call, my phone vibrated again. One new message. Don't. My stomach dropped. I felt bile rise in my throat. The air in my room felt thick, suffocating. And then, the curtain shifted. I didn't open them. I swear to God I didn't touch them, but they moved, just a little, just enough for a sliver of pale moonlit skin to show through. A face, a mouth, a smile, grinning, watching. I couldn't take it. I lunged out of bed, stumbled backward, knocking over the lamp. My heart slammed against my ribs as I scrambled for the door. My fingers fumbled with the lock. My mind screaming, move, 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 but the moment I yanked the door open, my phone buzzed again. Too slow, and suddenly, silence. The knocking stopped. The room felt empty, still. I turned slowly, my skin crawling, expecting to see that face still peering through the window. But it was gone. The curtains hung still. The house next door sat in its usual darkness, the window empty, No light, no shadow, no one. Like it had never happened. But I know it did. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat on the floor, back against the wall, lights on, waiting for morning. And when the sun finally broke the horizon, I made a decision. I was leaving. I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and forced myself to step outside. My entire body tensed as I walked past the house next door, my heart hammering against my ribs. And that's when I saw it. A for sale sign. Not in front of my house. In front of the house next door. Like it had been there for weeks. Like nothing had ever lived inside. Like no one had ever lived there at all. And beneath it, scribbled in red marker, a message I know wasn't there before. See you soon. I should have minded my own business. I keep telling myself that. Over and over. Like it would have changed anything. Like it would have saved me. But when something feels wrong, when every instinct in your body screams at you that something isn't normal, you notice. And I noticed him, the man who moved in next door. It was late September when I first saw him. The house had been empty for months, but one morning there was a moving truck, and by that night he was there. No introductions, no lights on, just a dark silhouette behind the curtains, watching. At first I told myself I was being paranoid. People keep to themselves. Not everyone wants to be friendly. But then I saw the bags. Every night, just past 2 a.m., he carried them out. Large black trash bags slung over his shoulder. Not once, not twice, but every night. And I swear to God, they dripped. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of his back door creaking open. I'd peek through the blinds and watch as he walked down the driveway, the bags swaying with his steps. He never used the garbage cans. He just carried them into his backyard. And he never came back with them. Then the smell started. It was faint at first, something you could almost ignore, like raw meat left out too long. But then it got worse. Sour. Rotting. Every time the wind shifted, it seeped into my house, clinging to my clothes, my skin. I knew what dead things smelled like. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I watched him from my window, waiting. His back door creaked open at 2:14 a.m. right on schedule. Same routine, bag over his shoulder, slow steps down the driveway. But this time he stopped, right in the middle of his yard. And then, without turning around, he spoke. "You watch me every night." His voice was hoarse, like his throat had been scraped raw. I couldn't breathe. I stood frozen behind the curtain, my pulse hammering so hard I thought it might give me away. Then slowly he turned his head. Not his body, just his head. I swear it twisted too far, way too far. Even in the darkness I could feel his eyes lock onto mine. "You should stop." I dropped to the floor, heart pounding, panic choking me. Did he see me? Had he always seen me? I stayed there for hours, too scared to move, too scared to even look. By the time the sun rose, I convinced myself I imagined it, that I was overtired, that paranoia was twisting reality into something worse than it was. But when I finally got the courage to look outside, there was a bag on my porch, dripping. And inside, a note. "Your turn." I didn't want to open the bag. Every instinct in my body screamed, "Don't." But I had to know. I grabbed a pair of gloves from the kitchen, my breath coming in sharp gasps as I crouched beside it. The plastic was slick, cold, and wet. My fingers trembled as I peeled it open, the stench hitting me like a physical force. And then I saw it. Hair. Skin. Teeth. Not an animal. Human. I gagged, stumbling back, my vision tunneling. My stomach twisted, threatening to empty itself right there on the porch. I needed to call the police right now. But as I scrambled for my phone, I noticed something. The teeth. They weren't random. They weren't just thrown in. They were arranged in a smile. My fingers fumbled as I dialed 911, my heartbeat slamming against my ribs. The line rang once, twice, then a knock at the door. Not loud, just soft, patient. I froze, my phone slipping from my hands. I turned, my body moving in slow, unwilling motions. Through the peephole I saw nothing but darkness. Then, a voice, low, ragged, too close. You opened it. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair. My hands searched for anything, a weapon, a way out. The knob twisted. I ran. Not toward the front door. I wasn't that stupid. He was right there. Instead, I bolted for the back, my pulse roaring in my ears. The moment I reached it, I ripped it open and lunged outside. The air was thick, suffocating. The smell of rot was stronger out here, and then I saw it. His backyard. For weeks I'd wondered where the bags went, where he took them. Now I knew. The ground was wrong. Mounds of disturbed earth, fresh and uneven. Dozens of them. And in the center, a hole. Waiting. The dirt around it was soft, as if recently dug. The size of it made my stomach drop. It was big. Enough for me. A hand clamped onto my shoulder. I screamed, thrashing, twisting, but he was strong. Unnaturally strong. His fingers dug into my skin like iron, pulling me back toward the pit. I caught a glimpse of his face. Closer than it had ever been. His eyes were wrong. Hollow. Like a mask stretched too tightly over something that wasn't human. You watch me every night, he rasped. His breath smelled like blood. Now you can stay. I fought like hell. My nails raked across his arms, my foot slammed into his shin, anything to break free. My body twisted, adrenaline surging, and in one desperate motion I drove my elbow into his throat. He staggered. I ran. I don't even remember getting to my car. My vision was blurry, my hands numb as I fumbled the keys into the ignition. But I saw him in the rearview mirror, standing in his yard, tilting his head, smiling. I didn't stop driving. I didn't stop until I was 3 towns over, locked in a motel room, shaking so badly I thought my bones would shatter. By the time the police got there, his house was empty. No furniture, no trash bags, no disturbed ground. Like he was never there. Like he never existed. But I know the truth. Because last night in this shitty motel my phone buzzed at 2:14 a.m. A message. You watch me every night. And outside, under the flickering neon light, a black bag, dripping. I never should have moved in. I knew something was off the moment I stepped inside. The air felt wrong, heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath. But rent was cheap, and I was desperate. So I told myself it was just an old house. Just my imagination. Then the whisper started. At first I thought it was the pipes. Houses settle, right? Old wood creaks, walls expand and contract. But these weren't creaks. They were voices, soft, constant, just beneath the edge of hearing. They slithered through the walls late at night, curling around my thoughts like smoke. I could never make out what they were saying, but I felt them, breathing, waiting, watching, and then one night they said my name. I was brushing my teeth when I heard it. A whisper. Close, right behind me. Daniel. I spun so fast I nearly slipped. My reflection in the mirror looked pale, gaunt. My heart hammered against my ribs. Nothing there. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I swore I felt something standing over me. The next day, I started noticing things. The door to the spare room, one I never used, was open. I was sure I left it closed. I shut it, locked it, checked twice. An hour later it was open again, and the whispers, they were getting louder. I tried everything: music, sleeping pills, even a priest. Nothing worked. Then, one night, I woke up to something worse. Silence. The whispers were gone. For the first time in weeks, the house was utterly, completely silent. And that's when I realized they weren't in the walls anymore. They were in the room with me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The air was thick, suffocating, pressing down on my chest like a weight. And then the mattress shifted, like someone had just sat down. I wanted to run, to scream, to pray. But then a voice, low and ragged, whispered in my ear, "Found you." I couldn't scream. I wanted to, I needed to, but my throat locked up, strangling the sound before it could escape. My body was frozen, my mind caught between sleep and something worse. The weight on the bed shifted again, closer. I could feel it. A presence, heavy, pressing against my skin like static electricity, like fingers running over my face without ever touching me, and then just above a whisper, a breath hot, wet, right against my ear. "Let me in," I snapped. My body jerked upright before my brain could catch up, my arms thrashing as I bolted from the bed, knocking over the nightstand in my panic. My lamp hit the floor, shattering, plunging the room into darkness. I didn't care. I was already running. But the moment my foot hit the hallway, the door to the spare room slammed open. I stopped. Not by choice. Something held me there. My muscles locked, every inch of my body screaming to move, to run, to get out. But I couldn't, and then I saw it. The door wasn't just open, it was waiting. The darkness inside wasn't normal. It wasn't shadow. It was something else, something deeper. The kind of black that swallows light. And then I realized it wasn't the room that was whispering. It was whatever was inside it, and now it was out. A shape crawled forward. Slow, uneven. It didn't walk. It pulled itself. Its limbs bent wrong, its breath coming in ragged, wet gasps. I tried to scream, to break free, but my body wouldn't obey. It moved closer, and then, the worst part, it smiled. Not with lips. Not with a face. The darkness itself split open. Teeth, too many, too wide. Grinning, it reached for me. The moment those fingers brushed my skin, I felt cold, not just on my body, inside. Something pushed against my skull, pressing, seeping into me, and then, I could hear it, inside my head. Let me in. It wasn't a request, it was a command. The pressure built, pushing, pressing, stretching my mind like it was making room for something else. I forced my lips to move, barely able to whisper. No. And just like that, it stopped. The weight lifted. My lungs filled with air. My body collapsed onto the floor, gasping, shaking. When I looked up, the door was closed. Not slammed, not forced, just closed, like it had never been open. The whispers never came back. The door never opened again. I moved out the next morning. I didn't pack. I didn't sleep. I just grabbed my keys and left. I don't know what was in that room. I don't want to know. But sometimes late at night I still hear my name, and I know somewhere it's waiting for the door to open again. It started with a smell. Thick, rotten, like meat left out in the sun, sickly sweet and crawling into the back of my throat. I first noticed it 2 weeks after moving into my new house. Small, quiet neighborhood. The kind of place where nothing happens, where people disappear into routine and no one asks questions. It was perfect. At least I thought it was. The house backed up to the woods. I liked that at first. The idea of solitude, of having something other than concrete and asphalt behind me. But at night, the trees didn't feel peaceful. They felt like they were watching. The smell came from there, from somewhere deep between the trees. I'd step onto my back porch in the mornings, coffee in hand, and it would hit me, cloying and wet, like something was rotting just out of sight. And then I started hearing it. It always came late, just past 3 a.m., a sound drifting from the woods, low and broken, like something trying to speak but not quite knowing how. I'd lay in bed, heart pounding, straining to listen. It wasn't a coyote, not a deer, nothing natural. It was wrong. One night I heard it closer, right outside my window. A scraping sound. Fingernails on glass. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Just lay there, paralyzed, as the thing dragged its fingers across the window pane, and then the whisper, not a word, just a sound. A wet, rasping exhale. I turned my head just enough to see. The window was open, just an inch, and through the gap, a single yellow eye staring back at me. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. That thing, that eye, was locked onto me, unblinking. The yellow was dull, almost sickly, like something that had rotted in its socket. The skin around it was too dark, too rough, as if it had been burned or peeled away. And then it blinked. Not like a human. Sideways. I tore the blankets off and bolted. My body moved before my mind caught up, feet barely touching the floor as I ripped the door open and sprinted into the hall. My breath was ragged, coming in shallow, gasping bursts. But then, the sound followed me, the wet, scraping drag of fingernails on wood. It wasn't outside anymore. It was inside the house. I ran. Didn't look back. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone, the darkness pressing against me like a weight. I reached the kitchen, slammed my back against the fridge, and finally, I dared to look. The hallway was empty, silent, still, but the back door was wide open. I know I locked it. I know I did. But there it was, gaping, inviting. The night outside stretched into the woods like an open throat, swallowing the porch light in thick, suffocating blackness. Then, the smell. Closer. Inside. A floorboard creaked just behind the kitchen island. Something was there with me. I clenched my phone so hard my knuckles ached, barely able to press 911. The operator picked up, and that's when I heard it. The voice. It came from just beyond the counter, wet and heavy with phlegm, like something trying to copy human speech but getting it all wrong, and it said, my voice. Hello? Not an echo. Not a recording. It was me. My voice, warped, stretched, like someone had peeled it out of my throat and was wearing it. My stomach twisted into a knot of ice. I turned my head inch by inch, forcing myself to look, and then I saw it. It was crouched there, half hidden in the dark, its skin mottled with patches of slick, decayed flesh. Its limbs were too long, too thin, bent at angles that made my stomach churn, and its mouth, oh God, its mouth. It was stretched into something that might have been a smile. Rows of small, jagged teeth glistened in the faint glow of my phone. It twitched, its lipless grin widening as it saw me looking, and then it stood, not like a person. Not smoothly. It unfolded, joints cracking, neck twisting with an audible pop. Its head tilted, watching me with that single, yellow, sideways blinking eye. I couldn't speak, couldn't scream. And then, in my own broken, warbling voice, it whispered, "Let me in." The call disconnected. The kitchen light flickered, then died. and in the darkness the last thing I heard was the soft, wet patter of bare feet moving toward me. I woke up in the woods. Dawn painted the sky in pale pinks and blues. Birds chirped somewhere far away. My clothes were damp, soaked in something that smelled like copper. I don't remember running. I don't remember leaving the house. But I do remember the last thing I saw before the lights went out. That thing, standing over me, its mouth too wide. Its fingers too long and its face. It had my face. I never went back to the house. I left everything behind. Clothes, furniture, my goddamn car. None of it mattered. But sometimes in the middle of the night, I hear my own voice calling from the woods, begging to be let in. I first saw him on my second day in the new house. It was a chilly evening, the kind that settles into your bones and makes the world feel quieter than it should. My neighbor's yard was small, a patch of dry grass and an old oak tree with gnarled branches reaching toward the sky like skeletal fingers. And under that tree, sitting in the dirt, was the boy. He couldn't have been older than 8. His blonde hair messy, his pale skin almost ghostly in the dimming light. He wore a tattered blue jacket and jeans that looked a size too small. But what unsettled me most wasn't his appearance, it was how still he was. Children fidget, they move, they exist in a constant state of restless energy. But not this boy. He sat cross-legged, his hands resting on his knees, staring blankly at the ground. I watched him for a while, feeling a strange unease knot in my stomach. There was something wrong. The way his shoulders didn't rise and fall with breath. The way the air around him felt colder. The way my instincts screamed at me to look away. Then, as if sensing my gaze, he turned his head. His eyes met mine, and he smiled. A slow, deliberate smile that stretched across his face like a crack in fragile porcelain. I slammed the curtains shut. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, that eerie smile burned into my mind. I told myself I was being ridiculous. Just a kid. Just a weird little kid. Nothing to be afraid of. But then, the knocking started. 3 sharp raps at my bedroom window. I froze. My breath hitched. The window was on the 2nd floor. There was no balcony, no ledge, nothing a child could stand on. The knock came again. I turned my head slowly, my body rigid with fear. Through the thin curtains I could make out a shape, small, still, waiting. The boy. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then, in the silence, I heard it, a whisper, soft, faint. Come outside. I don't know how long I stayed frozen in bed, heart hammering against my ribs. Minutes? Hours? The room felt suffocating, like the air had thickened with something unseen, something watching. I forced myself to move, inching toward the window, pulse roaring in my ears. With shaking hands, I gripped the curtain's edge and pulled it back. Just an inch. He was still there, but closer. His face was pressed against the glass, skin too pale, lips still curled into that twisted grin. His eyes, God, his eyes were black pits, hollow and endless, swallowing the faint glow of the street lamp behind him. I gasped, and he moved. Not like a child, not like anything human. His body jerked back in unnatural, stuttering motions as if unseen hands were yanking him away. And then, in a blink, he was gone. I slammed the curtain shut, my entire body trembling. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. I needed sleep. I needed to stop losing my mind over some creepy neighborhood kid, but deep down I knew this wasn't a child. Days passed. I avoided looking outside, avoided my neighbor's yard altogether. But no matter how much I tried to convince myself that Night was just my imagination. Something inside me had shifted. I felt him, watching, waiting. Then one evening, curiosity got the best of me. I went next door. The house was old, paint peeling, the porch sagging under my weight. I hesitated before knocking. No answer. I tried again. Nothing. Just as I turned to leave, the door creaked open. The smell hit me first. Rot, mold, something sickly sweet beneath it all. I stepped inside. The air was thick, stale. Dust coated every surface. Furniture sat untouched, draped in white sheets. No lights, no sounds. No sign of life except for the pictures. Frames lined the dusty mantel filled with photographs of the same boy. The same blank stare, the same eerie smile. But the photos were old, yellowed, faded. And then I saw it, a newspaper clipping pinned to the wall. Local boy missing. Since 1952, presumed dead. My stomach twisted. My breath came in shallow gasps. I turned, ready to run, but I wasn't alone. A whisper, right behind me. You found me. Cold fingers brushed my wrist. I screamed. Darkness swallowed me whole. I woke up in my own bed, drenched in sweat, heart slamming against my ribs. Morning light poured through the window. Had I dreamt it? Had my mind twisted the fear into some terrible nightmare? Then I saw them. Small dirt-streaked footprints on my floor, leading from the window to my bed. I never went back to that house. But every night, as I lie awake in the suffocating dark, I hear it. A whisper at my window. Come outside. Now that you've heard what no one should, remember, the terror doesn't end here. There are still many stories lurking in the dark, waiting to be told. So subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with your family. It helps me a lot to keep bringing you these chilling tales. And don't forget to check out the next video playing on the screen if you dare to face more nightmares.